Admiral Sunwoo stood on the bridge of the Taiho named after the Valoran pilot who had saved so many human lives 50 years ago. Around her, officers worked at their stations with focused determination. On the main screen, the Drac swarm filled the void like a living nightmare. "Report," she commanded. 2,000 human ships in position, her first officer said. "Valoran fleet has joined our formation. Total combined force, 2,200 vessels. And the enemy? Approximately 100,000 Drac organisms, plus 12 hive carriers." Sunwoo nodded slowly. The numbers were bad. Very bad. But she had not come here to count enemies. She had come here to win. "Open a channel to Lady Yuna," she ordered. Yuna's face appeared on a side screen. She looked tired but hopeful, like someone who had been drowning and had finally found something to hold on to. "Admiral," she said, "I still cannot believe you are here. When we sent our message, I feared no one would answer." "We almost did not," Sunwoo admitted. "There were people on Earth who wanted to stay out of this fight. They said it was not our problem. They said we had to protect ourselves first." "What changed their minds?" Sunwoo smiled slightly. "I showed them the recordings. The old recordings from 50 years ago. I showed them the Valoran ships charging into battle against the Drac. I showed them Taiho's final transmission. I showed them what your people did for us when we were helpless and alone." She paused, her eyes growing hard. "And then I told them that if we let Valora die, we would not deserve to survive. We would be no better than the council that abandoned both our worlds." Some people agreed. Some people did not. But enough of us chose to come. And here we are. Yuna wiped tears from her eyes. "My father always said that kindness would be rewarded." I was starting to lose faith in his words. "Do not lose faith," Sunwoo said. "Your father was a great man. He taught the galaxy what courage looks like. Now we will teach them what loyalty looks like." The human and Valoran fleets moved into formation. The largest battle in galactic history was about to begin. On the Drac side, the swarm began to stir. They could sense the ships waiting for them. They could feel the heat of their engines, the pulse of their life energy. It made them hungry. So very hungry. The 12 hive carriers released their spawn. Hundreds of thousands of Drac creatures poured into space, their black bodies blocking out the stars. They moved like water, flowing and shifting, forming shapes that hurt the mind to look at. "All ships," Sunwoo announced over the fleet channel. "This is it. 50 years ago, the Valarans gave us a gift. They gave us time to survive, to grow, to become strong. Today, we repay that gift. Today, we fight for our friends. Today, we show the universe that humanity does not forget." "For Earth," shouted the human crews. "For Valora," answered the Valoran soldiers. "For Taiho," Sunwoo whispered to herself. Then, louder, "All ships, attack!" The fleet surged forward. Energy beams cut through the darkness. Missiles streaked across the void. The Drac swarm met them with terrible fury, crashing against the lines like waves against rocks. Ships began to die. Human destroyers were torn apart by Drac claws. Valoran cruisers exploded under the weight of countless enemies. But for every ship that fell, 10 more pushed forward. For every fighter that was lost, another took its place. The battle raged for hours. Time lost all meaning. There was only fire and death and the endless hunger of the swarm. On the bridge of the Taiho, Sunwoo commanded her forces with calm precision. She had trained her entire life for this moment. Every battle she had fought, every lesson she had learned, had led her here. "Target the hive carriers," she ordered. "They are controlling the swarm. If we destroy them, the Drac will lose their coordination." The human fleet changed tactics. Instead of fighting the individual creatures, they began to push toward the massive carrier ships at the center of the swarm. It was like swimming through a storm of knives, but they kept going. One by one, the hive carriers began to fall. The first was destroyed by a concentrated barrage from 30 human battleships. The second was rammed by a damaged Valoran cruiser, whose captain chose to sacrifice his ship rather than retreat. The third, fourth, and fifth fell in quick succession, torn apart by combined fire from both fleets. As each carrier died, the Drac swarm grew weaker. Their movements became confused. They began to attack each other, unable to tell friend from enemy without the hive mind to guide them. "It is working," General Junho reported from his ship. "The swarm is breaking apart." "Push harder," Sunwoo commanded. "Do not give them time to recover." The final battle lasted another 3 hours. When it was over, the Drac swarm was gone. All 12 hive carriers had been destroyed. The surviving creatures scattered into the void, lost and purposeless. No longer a threat, Valora was saved. The celebration that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human and Valoran soldiers embraced in the corridors of their ships. Tears of joy were shed. Songs were sung. Stories were told of brave deeds and fallen friends. On Valora itself, the people poured into the streets to welcome their saviors. Human shuttles landed in the capital, and their crews were greeted as heroes. Children gave them flowers. Old men and women bowed with respect. Young couples named their babies after human admirals and captains. Yuna stood on a platform in the central square, addressing the crowd. Beside her was Admiral Sunwoo, looking slightly uncomfortable with all the attention. "Today," Yuna said, her voice carrying across the city, "we celebrate a victory. But more than that, we celebrate friendship. 50 years ago, my father and a small fleet went to help a planet called Earth. He did not go for glory or reward. He went because innocent people were dying, and no one else would help." She turned to look at Sunwoo. "Today, Earth came to help us for the same reason. Because we were dying, and no one else would help. This is what true alliance looks like. Not treaties signed in council chambers. Not words spoken by politicians. True alliance is forged in fire. It is earned through sacrifice. It is kept through loyalty." The crowd cheered. Sunwoo stepped forward to speak. "On Earth," she said, "we have a saying, 'Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.' Your people lived by this rule before you even knew we existed. You came to our aid when the galaxy turned away. You paid for our survival with your blood." She paused, her voice growing thick with emotion. "A pilot named Taiho gave his life so that my grandmother could escape Earth. I never met him, but I named my flagship after him. And today, I brought that ship here to protect his people. This is the reward for kindness. Not gold, not territory, but the knowledge that somewhere in the universe, someone remembers what you did. Someone cares." The Galactic Council watched the celebration from their distant thrones. High Chancellor Boran stared at the reports with cold fury. The alliance he had tried to destroy was now stronger than ever. The two races he dismissed as weak and worthless had defeated an enemy that would have crushed any council world. "This is unacceptable," he muttered. "They are becoming too powerful." But the other council members were no longer listening. They had seen what happened when you abandoned worlds in need. They had seen what happened when you underestimated the power of loyalty. One by one, they began to send secret messages to Earth and Valora. Messages of friendship. Messages of apology. Messages asking to join the new alliance. The galaxy was changing. The old order was crumbling. And at the center of it all stood two small worlds, bound together by a simple truth. Kindness, given freely, is never wasted. Years later, Yuna would tell this story to her own children. She would tell them about their grandfather Minho, who had refused to let a planet die. She would tell them about Taiho, who had flown into fire to save strangers. She would tell them about Admiral Sunwoo, who had crossed the galaxy to repay a debt 50 years old. Remember, she would say, the universe can be cruel. It can be cold. It can be unfair. But there will always be people who choose to be kind. And when you find those people, hold on to them. Fight for them. Because they are the ones who make the darkness bearable. And so the story was passed down, generation after generation. The story of two worlds who saved each other. The story of a reward that was worth more than all the gold in the galaxy. The story of kindness returned. 50 years can change many things. Mountains can crumble. Rivers can dry up. Old heroes can become memories. But some things stay the same. The Drac never stopped being hungry. They only waited. Elder Minho had passed away 10 years ago, peaceful in his sleep, surrounded by his family. His last words were simple. Be kind. Always be kind. His daughter Yuna was now the leader of Valora. She had grown into a wise woman, with the same gentle eyes as her father. She had kept the alliance with Earth strong, meeting with human leaders every year, trading ideas and hopes and dreams. But now, all those dreams were turning into nightmares. Report, Yuna said, sitting in the same council chamber where her father had once sat. Her voice was calm, but her heart was racing. General Junho stood before her. He was a tall man with a scar across his face, earned in a battle against space pirates years ago. The Drac have returned, he said. They appeared at the edge of our system 3 days ago. Their numbers are massive. How massive? Junho hesitated. That was never a good sign. 10 times larger than the swarm that attacked Earth 50 years ago. The room went cold. Yuna felt like someone had put ice in her veins. 10 times larger. That was not just an army. That was an extinction. How is this possible? Asked one of her advisors. We thought the Drac were destroyed. They were not destroyed, Junho explained. They were scattered. For 50 years, they have been breeding in the dark spaces between stars, growing, multiplying, and now they have found us. Why us? Another advisor asked. Why not Earth? Why not some other world? Junho looked down at his datapad. Our intelligence suggests they remember. The Drac have a kind of hive memory. They remember Valora. They remember that we helped destroy their queen. They want revenge. Yuna closed her eyes. Of course, the sins of the past never truly go away. Her father had done the right thing 50 years ago, but now his children would pay the price. What about our defenses? She asked. We have rebuilt our fleet since the Earth War, Junho said. We now have 200 ships. But against a swarm this size. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Contact the Galactic Council, Yuna ordered. Request emergency aid. The message was sent. Hours passed. Then days. Finally, an answer came back. High Chancellor Boran, somehow still alive after all these years, kept breathing by advanced technology appeared on their screens. Valora, he said, his voice thin and cold like winter wind. We have received your request. The Drac are coming, Yuna said. We need help. Ships, weapons, soldiers, anything you can spare. Boran's expression did not change. The Council has discussed your situation. We've decided that involving ourselves in this conflict would not be wise. Yuna felt her stomach drop. Not wise? We are talking about the complete destruction of our world. Billions of people will die. Yes, Boran said, as if she had commented on the weather. That is unfortunate. But the Drac have only shown interest in Valora. If we attack them, they might turn their attention to our worlds. We cannot take that risk. You cannot take the risk? Yuna stood up from her chair, her voice rising. We took the risk for Earth. We sent our ships when no one else would help. We lost half our fleet. We lost good people. And now you tell us you cannot take the risk? That was your choice, Boran replied calmly. You chose to help Earth against the Council's decision. You chose to form an alliance with humans. Every action has consequences, Yuna. Perhaps if your father had listened to us 50 years ago, you would not be in this situation. The screen went dark. Boran had ended the transmission. Yuna stood in silence, staring at the blank screen. Around her, the advisors whispered among themselves, their voices filled with fear. They have abandoned us, Junho said quietly. Just like they abandoned Earth. Yuna nodded slowly. Yes, they have. She thought of her father. She thought of his words. Be kind. Always be kind. He had lived by those words. He had died believing them. But what good was kindness in a universe that did not care? What about Earth? One of the advisors asked. They are allies. Surely they will help. Yuna felt a spark of hope. Yes, Earth. The humans had promised to stand with Valora, just as Valora had stood with them. But 50 years was a long time. Would they remember? Would they care? Send a message to Earth, she ordered. Tell them what is happening. Tell them we need them. The message was sent. More waiting followed. The Drac swarm moved closer each day, a dark cloud blotting out the stars. Valoran ships patrolled the edges of the system, watching and reporting. The numbers were terrifying. The Drac were endless. After a week, a response came from Earth. It was not from the government. It was from a human named James, an old man now, who had once been a young officer watching in amazement as Valoran ships appeared to save his world. Yuna, he said in the recorded message. I remember. I was there when your people came to help us. I watched your ships fight while everyone else ran away. I saw a pilot named Taiho give his life so that my family could escape. His old eyes were wet with tears. I have told this story to my children, and to their children. Earth has not forgotten. We will never forget. But I must warn you, he continued. Our current government is complicated. There are some who want to help. There are others who think we should protect ourselves and let Valora handle its own problems. The politicians are arguing. The military is divided. I do not know what they will decide. The message ended. Yuna sat in the dark, feeling more alone than she had ever felt in her life. Days passed. The Drac drew closer. Valoran families began to pack their belongings, preparing to evacuate. But there was nowhere to go. The Galactic Council had closed its borders. No one would take them in. Yuna walked through the streets of the capital city. She saw children playing, unaware of the danger coming toward them. She saw old couples holding hands, talking about memories from better times. She saw young soldiers saying goodbye to their loved ones, knowing they might never come back. Lady Yuna, a voice called. It was General Junho, running toward her. His face was strange, shocked and confused and hopeful all at the same time. What is it? She asked. Ships, he said breathlessly. Thousands of them. They just appeared at the edge of our system. Yuna's heart stopped. The Drac? Are they attacking? No, Junho said. He was almost laughing now, tears streaming down his scarred face. Not the Drac, humans. They are human ships. Yuna could not move. She could not speak. She could only stare at Junho as his words slowly sank in. A transmission is coming through, he continued. They want to talk to you. She ran back to the council chamber. On the main screen, a face appeared. It was a woman in a military uniform with short gray hair and eyes like steel. This is Admiral Sunwoo of the United Earth Fleet, the woman said. Her voice was strong and clear. I am here with 2,000 ships and 300,000 soldiers. We heard you needed some help. Una finally found her voice. You came. Admiral Sunwoo smiled. It was a fierce smile, full of fire and determination. Of course we came. Earth remembers, Lady Una. We remember everything. Your people saved us when no one else would. Now it is our turn. On the streets of Valora, people began to look up at the sky. They saw lights appearing among the stars, thousands of them, spreading across the darkness like a river of hope. Earth had come. The war lasted 3 more months. 3 months of fire and blood. 3 months of watching friends die. 3 months of fighting an enemy that never stopped, never rested, and never showed mercy. But in the end, they won. Commander Hana stood on the bridge of the Iron Wing as the last Drac ship burned in the darkness of space. Around her, the crew was silent. There was no cheering, no celebration. They were too tired, too broken for joy. The Drac had been pushed back beyond the edge of the solar system. Their main hive ship had been destroyed by a combined attack from Valoran and human forces. Without their queen, the remaining creatures had scattered into the void, confused and lost. Earth was saved. It is over, Hana said softly. The words felt strange on her tongue. For so long, she had lived with the fear that they would lose. Now that they had won, she did not know how to feel. Elder Minho's face appeared on the communication screen. He looked older than before. The war had taken years from his life, but his eyes still held the same kindness that had made him refuse to abandon Earth. Commander, he said, you have done something wonderful today. We all did, Elder, Hana replied. Every Valoran who came here, every human who fought beside us. We did this together. Minho nodded slowly. Yes, together. He paused, and Hana saw something sad cross his face. I have received a message from our homeworld. Hana felt a cold feeling in her stomach. What does it say? While we were fighting here, the Galactic Council moved against us, Minho said. They have cut all trade agreements with Valora. Our planet is isolated. No food shipments. No medical supplies. No help of any kind. What? Hana could not believe what she was hearing. Why would they do this? Because we disobeyed them, Minho said. We helped Earth when they told us not to. Now they want to punish us. They want to show other worlds what happens when someone stands against the Council's decisions. Hana's hands curled into fists. This is wrong. We saved billions of lives. We lost half our fleet. And this is how they reward us. The Council does not care about lives, Minho said bitterly. They care about power. We challenged their authority, so now they want to destroy us. The news spread through the remaining Valoran ships. The crew members who had survived the war now faced a new horror. Their homeworld was in danger. Their families might starve. And there was nothing they could do. But then something unexpected happened. A human general named Marcus. Chun requested a meeting with Elder Minho. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face marked by years of battle. He had commanded the Earth forces during the war, and he had seen what the Valorans had done. Elder Minho, he said when they met on the starlight. I have heard about your situation. Minho nodded tiredly. Yes, it seems our reward for helping Earth is the destruction of our own world. No, Marcus said firmly. That is not what will happen. He reached into his uniform and pulled out a data pad. On it was a document with many signatures and seals. This is a treaty, Marcus explained. Earth and Valora. A full alliance. We will share food, medicine, technology, and military support. If the Galactic Council tries to hurt your planet, they will have to go through us first. Minho stared at the document. His old hands were shaking. You would do this for us? After everything we have lost? Because of everything you lost, Marcus said. Your people died for us. Your pilot, Taiho, he gave his life so our families could escape. We will never forget that. Never. Hana stood nearby, watching the exchange. She thought of Taiho's smile, his bravery, his final words. Tell Elder Minho it was an honor. She felt tears forming in her eyes again. There is more, Marcus continued. Our scientists want to work with yours. We have ideas for new ships, new weapons. Together, we can build a fleet that will make the Galactic Council think twice before threatening either of our worlds. But you are still recovering, Minho said. Earth was nearly destroyed. How can you offer us so much? Marcus smiled. It was a hard smile, full of determination. Earth has learned a lesson from this war. Elder, we have learned that the only friends worth having are the ones who stand with you when everyone else runs away. You stood with us. Now we stand with you. That is how it works. Over the following weeks, the alliance took shape. Human cargo ships brought food and medicine to Valora. Valaran engineers traveled to Earth to help rebuild the cities that had been destroyed. The two races, so different in so many ways, began to learn from each other. The Galactic Council watched with growing worry. They had expected Earth to collapse. They had expected Valora to beg for mercy. Instead, both worlds were becoming stronger. High Chancellor Boren called an emergency meeting. This alliance cannot be allowed to continue, he declared. If humans and Valorans unite, they will upset the balance of power in the galaxy. Ambassador Kira of the Thalosi agreed. We must find a way to break them apart. But the other council members were less certain. They had seen what humans could do when they were desperate. They had seen how Valorans fought when they believed in their cause. The idea of making enemies of both races was frightening. Perhaps we should leave them alone, suggested one of the younger leaders. Let them have their alliance. They are small. They cannot challenge us. Morin's eyes narrowed. You are a fool. Small fires can become great flames. We must put this out before it spreads. But he did not act. Not yet. He was waiting for the right moment. Meanwhile, on Valora, Elder Minho returned home as a hero. Crowds gathered to welcome him. Children threw flowers at his feet. Songs were sung in his honor, but Minho did not feel like a hero. He felt tired and sad. So many had died. So much had been lost. Yes, Earth was saved. Yes, the alliance was strong. But at what cost? His daughter Yuna met him at the spaceport. She was young, only 16, with her mother's dark eyes and her father's gentle spirit. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. Father, she whispered. You came back. I promised I would, he said, holding her close. That night, they sat together in their small house, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, their new ally. Somewhere out there were the graves of all the Valorans who had given their lives. Father, Yuna asked, was it worth it? Minho thought for a long moment before answering. Yes, he finally said. It was worth it. We saved lives. We made friends. We proved that kindness can exist even in a cruel universe. But what about the Council? Yuna asked. They want to hurt us. Let them try, Minho said. We are not alone anymore. We have Earth, and Earth has us. He looked up at the stars and made a silent promise. No matter what came next, the Valorans would survive. They had paid for their honor with blood. Now they would protect it with everything they had. 50 years of peace followed. 50 years of building and growing. The Valaran-Human alliance became a small but powerful force in the galaxy. And then the Drak came back. Commander Hana stood on the bridge of her ship, the Iron Wing. Around her, alarms screamed and lights flashed red. The battle had been going on for 6 hours, and they were losing. Enemy fighters coming from the left, shouted her pilot, a young man named Taiho, He was only 23 years old, but he flew like he had been born in the cockpit. His hands moved fast over the controls, dodging beams of fire and spinning through clouds of debris. Hana grabbed a rail as the ship shook from an explosion. "How many?" "Too many," Taiho said. "I count 50. No, 60. They just keep coming." Through the viewport, Hana could see the horror of the Drac swarm. They were not like normal enemies. They did not fly in formations. They did not follow patterns. They moved like a living storm, millions of dark shapes twisting and turning together. Each creature was the size of a small fighter with wings of bone and mouths full of teeth. When they hit a ship, they did not just damage it. They ate through the hull like acid. "All ships, report status," Hana said into her communicator. The answers came back one by one. They were bad. "Red Wing here. We have lost engines. Cannot move." Blue Star reporting. "Hull breach on deck 4. Sealing now. Thunder's Edge is gone. No survivors." Hana closed her eyes for a moment. Thunder's Edge had carried 80 crew members. She had known the captain since she was a child. Now he was gone, along with everyone on his ship. "Stay focused," she told herself. "The living need you now." She opened a channel to Elder Minho on the flagship. "Elder, we cannot hold this position much longer. The Drac are pushing through our lines." Minho's voice was calm, but she could hear the worry underneath. "What do you suggest, Commander?" "We need to protect the evacuation routes," Hana said. "Human ships are trying to get civilians off the planet. If the Drac reach them, millions more will die." "Then protect them," Minho said. "Do whatever you must." Hana turned to Taiho. "You heard him. Take us to the evacuation zone." Taiho nodded and pushed the engines to full speed. The Iron Wing shot forward, weaving through the chaos of battle. Behind them, other Valoran ships followed. The evacuation zone was near the planet's largest city. Thousands of human transports were taking off, carrying families and children to safety. But the Drac had seen them too. A massive wave of creatures was heading straight for the fleeing ships. "We have to stop them," Hana said. "There are too many," one of her officers said. "We do not have the firepower." "Then we use our ships as shields," Hana replied. "Put ourselves between the Drac and the transports." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Valoran ships would take the damage meant for the humans. Many would not survive, but no one argued. No one ran. They had come here to help, and they would not stop now. The Valoran fleet spread out in a long line, forming a wall of metal between the swarm and the evacuation ships. Hana watched the Drac approach. They were moving fast, their bodies blocking out the stars. "All ships, hold the line," she commanded. "Let them come to us." The first wave hit like a hammer. Drac creatures crashed against the Valoran ships, tearing at their hulls and biting through their armor. The Iron Wing shook violently. Hana heard screams over the communicator as other ships reported damage. "Keep firing," she shouted. "Do not let them through." The battle became a nightmare. Time stopped making sense. Hana lost track of how long they fought. Her world became the flashing lights of weapons, the sound of explosions, and the endless dark shapes of the enemy. One by one, the Valoran ships began to fall. The Red Wing exploded in a ball of fire. The Blue Star was torn apart by a group of Drac that had broken through its shields. The Sunrise went silent, its crew lost to the void. But still, the transports kept flying. Millions of humans were escaping, their ships climbing up from the burning planet and jumping into hyperspace. Because of the Valorans, they would live. "Commander," Taiho said suddenly. His voice was strange. "I have an idea." Hana looked at him. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear. "What is it?" "The main swarm is following us," he said. "If I take a shuttle and fly toward the planet's atmosphere, I can lead them away. The heat of re-entry will kill them. It will kill you too, Hana said. Taiho smiled sadly. I know. No, Hana said firmly. I will not allow it. Commander, please. Taiho stood up from his seat. My family is already gone. The Drac took my homeworld before I joined the fleet. I have nothing left except this, a chance to save people who still have something to live for. Hana wanted to argue. She wanted to order him to stay. But she looked into his eyes and saw that his decision was made. This was his choice, and she had no right to take it from him. You are a brave man, Taiho, she said quietly. No, he replied. I am just a pilot who wanted to matter. He ran to the shuttle bay. 5 minutes later, his small ship launched into the darkness. Hana watched on the screen as he flew straight toward the largest group of Drac. Come on, Taiho's voice said over the radio. Follow me, you monsters. Follow me. The Drac turned. Thousands of them pulled away from the battle by this single tiny ship. They chased Taiho as he dove toward Earth's atmosphere. Commander, he said, his voice starting to break up. Tell Elder Minho. Tell him it was an honor. I will, Hana whispered. The shuttle entered the atmosphere. Fire surrounded it. The Drac followed, unable to resist their hunger. One by one, they began to burn, their bodies unable to survive the heat. Taiho's ship disappeared into the flames. His signal went dark. He was gone. On the bridge of the Iron Wing, Hana stood in silence. Tears ran down her face, but she did not wipe them away. She let them fall. Around her, the battle continued. But something had changed. The Drac swarm was smaller now. Taiho's sacrifice had taken thousands of them out of the fight. All ships, Hana said, her voice steady despite her grief. Push forward. We can win this. The remaining Valon ships attacked with new energy. They fought not just for Earth, but for Taiho, for all those who had given their lives. By the end of the day, the evacuation was complete. 12 million humans had escaped the planet. The Drac swarm had been driven back, wounded and confused, but the cost was terrible. Of the 47 Valorn ships that had come to Earth, only 19 remained. Hundreds of good people were dead. Elder Minho walked through the halls of the Starlight, looking at the faces of the survivors. They were tired, broken, and sad. But they were also proud. You did well, he told them. You saved millions of lives. The universe will remember what you did here. He hoped it was true, but deep in his heart, he feared that the universe would forget. After all, the Galactic Council had already turned away once. Why would they care about the sacrifice of a small, weak race? It did not matter. The Valons had done what was right. That was enough. Or so Minho believed. The signal came from a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. It was weak, broken, and full of fear. The message repeated again and again, traveling through the cold darkness of space until it reached the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. Elder Minho sat in his seat and listened. He was old, with silver hair and kind eyes. His people, the Valorans, were a small race. They had no great army. They had no powerful weapons. But they had good hearts, and Minho believed that was enough. The human voice in the message was shaking. This is Earth. We are under attack. The Drac swarm has found us. Our defenses are failing. We ask for help. Please, anyone. We cannot survive alone. The council chamber was silent. Minho looked around at the other leaders. There were 12 of them, each from a different world. They were rich and powerful. Their fleets were large. Their weapons were strong. But their faces showed nothing. No pity, no concern. Only cold calculation. High Chancellor Boran of the Nexari stood up. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes like black stones. Earth is not a member of our council, he said. His voice was flat. They have nothing to offer us. Why should we risk our ships for them? Because they will die, Minho said quietly. Morin looked at him with something like amusement. Many planets die, Elder. The universe is cruel. We cannot save everyone. We can try, Minho replied. A low laugh spread through the chamber. The other leaders shook their heads. To them, Minho was a fool. The Valorans were weak. They had no voice that mattered. Ambassador Kira of the Tholosi spoke next. She was beautiful in the way of her people, with blue skin and silver eyes. But her beauty hid a cold heart. The Drak are dangerous, she said. If we attack them, they might turn on us. It is better to let them feed on Earth. It will keep them busy. Minho felt sick. He looked at the faces around him. Not one showed any shame. They were willing to let billions of humans die just to protect themselves. I call for a vote, said High Chancellor Borin. All those in favor of sending aid to Earth. Minho raised his hand. He was alone. All those against? 11 hands went up. The motion fails, Borin said. Earth will receive no help from this council. The session ended. The leaders left the chamber, already forgetting about the small blue planet and its dying people. But Minho stayed in his seat. He could not move. The human voice still echoed in his mind. Please, anyone. His aide, a young woman named Hannah, walked up to him. She was small but strong, with sharp eyes and a brave spirit. She had served in the Valoran military for 10 years. She knew how to fight. Elder, she said softly, what will you do? Minho looked up at her. His old eyes were wet with tears. I cannot sit here and do nothing, Hannah. I cannot watch a whole world burn. The council has made its decision, she said. If we act alone, we will anger them. Let them be angry, Minho said. He stood up slowly, his bones aching. The Valorans did not become who we are by following the rules of cowards. We became who we are by doing what is right. Hannah nodded. She had expected this answer. In truth, she had hoped for it. I will prepare the fleet, she said. Minho grabbed her arm. Hannah, you understand what this means? Our fleet is small. Our ships are old. Many of us will not come back. I understand, she said. But some things are worth dying for. Within hours, the Valoran fleet was ready. It was not much, only 47 ships. Most of them were cargo vessels that had been fitted with weapons. The newest warship was 20 years old. But the crews were brave, and they believed in their mission. Minho stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Starlight. Around him, officers worked at their stations. On the main screen, he could see the other ships forming up behind them. Hannah stood at his side. The fleet is ready, Elder. Then let us go, Minho said. Let us show the galaxy what it means to be Valoran. The ships jumped into hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines of light. For 3 days, they traveled through the void, moving toward Earth. When they arrived, what they saw broke their hearts. Earth was burning. Great fires covered the continents. Millions of Drak creatures swarmed over the planet like insects. They were horrible things, black and twisted, with sharp claws and many eyes. They ate everything in their path. Cities, forests, people. Nothing was safe from their hunger. In orbit, the remains of Earth's defense fleet drifted like broken toys. Human ships lay shattered and silent. Escape pods floated among the debris, some still sending distress signals. By the stars, Hannah whispered. We are too late. No, Minho said firmly. We are not too late. There are still people down there. There are still ships that can be saved. We fight? He opened a channel to all Valoran ships. This is Elder Minho. I know you are afraid. I am afraid too. But today, we do not fight for glory, or for power. We fight because innocent people are dying, and no one else will help them. Today, we show the universe that kindness still exists. All ships engage the enemy. The Valaran fleet moved forward. They were small. They were weak. But they did not run. On the bridge of a damaged human carrier, a young officer named James looked up at his screen. New ships had appeared. Ships he did not recognize. "Sir," he said to his captain, "we have incoming vessels. 47 of them. They are attacking the Drac." The captain stared at the screen in disbelief. "Who are they?" "I do not know, sir. But they came." Across the burning sky of Earth, the Valarans charged into battle. They were not supposed to win. They were not supposed to matter. But they came anyway, because someone had asked for help, and they were the only ones who answered. The war for Earth had begun.